Hey everyone, this is the Notebooks meeting for the 14th of August, 2025. We've got so many different items today, but the first thing I always like to highlight is just because most people are here for Notebooks 2.0. If you don't know what Notebooks 2.0 is, please go to this issue, 85, Kubeflow/notebooks. It explains what we're doing. It's a full rewrite. We always need people who are skilled in these areas. Which is Go for the backend, and KubeBuilder and controllers, and REST APIs, and Golang-based REST APIs, which are connecting to Kubernetes for the backend. And the front end is written in a mixture of JavaScript stuff, mainly around React, and a few other custom frameworks. If you want to help, please reach out on the Slack. It's the best way to get to do it. Of course, also in this meeting, but we do have pretty packed agendas usually. When will it be ready? That is TBD, but hopefully before the end of the year. Okay, the next thing that I want to highlight is that we do have a roadmap doc, which kind of explains some personas at a high level. These will probably get moved. I mean, we probably will keep this, but like the idea of this is if you want to answer, like you'll probably see references to these personas a lot. So if you have confusion about what they are, here's where you find them, Bella and Joel. Okay. And then we have this new tracking board. We won't go through this right now, but I just wanted to highlight that it exists. It's a project that you can easily get to by going to the Notebooks repo, and then clicking projects, and then Kubeflow Notebooks. And the goal here is that we have a bunch of different boards, and we'll go through and improve them over time. But this is the epic view, which is the overall large groups of like long-running tasks that are kind of, their epics are meant to be kind of, yeah, well, we'll come back to that later. But features are more clear what they are. They have defined acceptance criteria, but they don't have implementation details necessarily. Tasks are actual tasks that engineers can work on, and they get assigned under a feature, and they have actual designs and things like that. You might have some designs under features too, but and then issues and these things are just like tracking of the repo to make sure it's healthy. Obviously, this is once we start having users coming in with issues and requests, we need to triage them. This is how we'll do that. PRs, obviously, it's the same idea. Most things for PRs obviously should be connected to an actual task, like, but sometimes people will raise things without it. This is just a filtered list of all of the tasks relative. So they have, this one has anything that's already been triaged effectively.
And Matthew, I did go through as I was relinking stuff. I did put like nothing here is in the needs triage right now. We can decide if I mislabeled these, but I tried based on these discussions to put like I invented the hold category on stuff that just like we're not really focused on right now, and then tried to categorize everything else. But if you feel
when you say
differently,
category, oh, there. Okay, interesting. Normally that would be like a backlog, right? On this left. That's interesting. Who knows? Okay. Let's anyway, I just wanted to show this. So if people have ideas for how to improve this is our first iteration. It's like this is like we really do need feedback. And obviously as we start using it every day, it will be like, don't just sit there being like, oh, this sucks. Please suggest ideas. Of course, there's going to be thousands of issues and thousands of things going on. This is going to be a big project with many, many tens of thousands of users. So it is like, it's going to be a big machine, but like we need to set up some of these processes now. Even now, we've got a lot of engineers working on it. So I just want to highlight this. Also, we do have a concept called sub-issues, which we're using. So I just want to draw this out for people. So the idea is that epics have sub-issues, which are, well, okay, who knows? But features, but who knows what's going on here?
you picked the one wrong epic that yeah. Any
okay,
other
well,
epic is better.
Normally they should have features. And then features should have sub-issues with tasks. Okay, cool. Let's go back. Now, new adopters, please add yourself to the notebooks if you're if you're a user of Kubeflow notebooks. We haven't really been pushing this that much overall for Kubeflow. If you use other components, please do that too. There's other adopters lists. Let's I don't really have time to go through new people, so let's skip that for now. I'm sorry. Okay, okay, dashboard migration. What's the status on this, Andy? But Notebooks 1.0, obviously, which is actually 2.0.
So I haven't been able to sync with Kimonis recently, so hope all is well with him. We had a couple different PRs that have kind of just gotten stuck. I asked one of our developers, Yehu Deet, who was trying to do a partial rename on some of these components, and like the scope of that PR was growing, where I asked her to just use that one PR to fix everything we need for dashboard. She pinged me 15 minutes before this meeting. She's based in Israel, so not on this call, but she felt good that this one PR that she's updated, she still needs to update the PR description, should do all the renamings, fix the CI, point to the registry, use the new image names, but I have not yet had a chance to review that. I'm out Friday and Monday, so Tuesday, that is my top of mind to start to go through that. So I hope that that's like one PR we can push to her. It's 115.
We won't go
I
through it now, obviously. I just want to see it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So yeah, 115, and then Liav has one other PR to do the release automation. So this PR description's outdated. She said
Yeah.
she'd fix that in her morning. But I want to get that 115 PR merge, which has everything we need, and then Liav's PR, which is the automation to cut releases, at which point we should be able to do I don't know if we want to call it, 2.0 beta or whatever, but those are the last two kind of outstanding things that we should need.
I think we should call it like an alpha or beta or something. And then because I think there's definitely discussion around changing things. You know what I mean? Like, so we can debate if once we have a cut, then we can talk about syncing the manifests and various other things into for testing, and then make changes like moving. I still think we should try and get the manifests for auth into that repo before cutting a release, but that's a separate discussion for Julius to decide. Okay, Aranda, so again, the goal here is to migrate code into here. Obviously, the old code has been deleted. Thanks, Andrea, from the Kubeflow, so we're really committed now. So in terms of getting a first release, so the only thing blocking it is the CI stuff, I guess, or is there?
Well, so that's what I'm saying. So we have this 115 PR, and then Liav has his dedicated PR on the script to kind of automate the cutting of a release process. So it's like those two cover all of the open issues left in that issue that Kimonis had written up. There's one outstanding thing I wasn't sure on. I'd prefer to move forward with Yehudit's PR, but you had mentioned at one point, Matthew, some sort of like upgrade script or documentation as like the, for in the
Well, we
purpose
definitely
of,
can't put a final release until we have that. That's like, but that's
yeah,
fine.
yeah. So my thought is we could do that after we get this in there. That's why we do like an alpha or beta right now to really hone it.
I
But
agree. Let's just call it like 2.0.0 alpha 1 or something, like.
right, yes. So, but other than that, all the issues that Kimonis outlined are covered in those two
So
PRs.
have we
And we'll do
created
a
the
follow-up.
registries? Like, because there's container registries that need to be created.
We need, and I'm sorry, the permissions to this registry, so it's like set up right.
I can create it if it's not. It's easier. I just need to create it if and then I can assign the correct permissions. Okay. So that seems like a task that I need to do. But we'll come back to that. Just make sure people don't merge that other PR until we've done that, because it will cause the.
Yeah, I mean, it'll take me a solid day to review that. So until I get it looked, once I LGTM that, then I'll reach out to, approvers at large, but I would imagine that wouldn't be until Wednesday at earliest.
Okay, cool. Anyone else got anything for the migration, Andre?
Much sorry, like for why do we need create packages? If I remember correctly, we incorporate prefix and it works, right?
Yeah, so the problem with that is it just means that no one ends up being an owner of it, and that's the only reason. Like, it means that the bot ends up being the owner, which is not really what we want. Like, it makes the bot have super admin permissions, which we don't really want it to have. We prefer it only have write permission.
Why?
Just because whoever creates a package becomes the admin of it. And so,
yeah, that's fine. Well, why would I want to have bot admin permission?
No, they just need write. It doesn't need admin, is what I'm saying. Like, otherwise it could use privilege escalate.
But it is a bot, right? What kind of
but the bot is controlled by GitHub Actions, right? So if someone writes a GitHub action, that changes the permission of the package.
But but the thing is, like, you need to merge this PR, right? Like,
so it depends on. It just depends. All I'm saying is, like, it's just a risk. There's no, like, every other package is owned by the notebook's leads. You know what I mean? So that it's just easier to keep in control of it. You know what I mean? That's all.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't say like why we don't want to use those bots, because for pipelines, Trainer and Katib, we just we don't create them.
I'd recommend putting your team of your leads as, or just one or two people, if not all of them, as the admin of it, and making the bot only have write access. But yeah.
But we can do it after, right?
You have to do it manually though. It's just very painful. That's all I'm saying. Like.
Okay, I just like again, I don't understand like why do we need to manually create packages, because they automatically will be created. If you go to Kubeflow packages, right, you will see all of them right there.
Yeah, I know, but anyway, all I'm saying is like also we need to review these anyway. That's what I'm saying. We can go through specifics once we've got the PR. But yeah, like it's not really. I agree, both could work, but otherwise I have to then go get someone with org admin to change the permissions of every package, which is very tedious for them.
No,
So,
we can do it. It's not a problem. Like,
but I know, but like someone has to actually do it. I don't want to, like, they just don't need to do it if I push it first, is all I'm saying.
okay, at least like, can we ensure we use the same name for the images we use for model registry, trainer, and
I don't
Qt
think
Pro?
we have a consistent pattern, but
I'm talking about Kubeflow slash subproject name slash
slash
component.
repository name is the
Yeah,
main.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the component, I mean, like, project like dashboard, notebooks, right?
It's more like, because GitHub uses that prefix to determine where it came from.
Yep.
It
That's
doesn't
right.
actually, it's kind of more complicated than that, but it's the gist of it. Okay, so is there anything you need? So Andre, what we're saying here is that sometime next week we will cut an alpha release of Dashboard 2.0. Are you happy with that?
I think so, right? Because Kimonos is working, and I know Julius also helping to review.
Everyone's working on it, I know, but like, so my perspective is that we cut an alpha release, we then
Yep.
sync the manifests from there into the,
Yep.
you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
then,
Kubeflow. Yep.
and we run tests, right? We run tests, yeah, to make sure it's not broken. And
Yep.
then into main, we don't release like a 1.10 from it, obviously. And then from
Yeah,
there,
so I guess like the point for us is to release the patch version.
to be able to, no, we're actually going to call it 2.0 just because it's coming from a new place. But yes,
we are talking about dashboard or notebooks.
dashboard.
Dashboard, right? So what will be the version for the dashboard you think about?
So 2.0, it's just like we're going to make we are going to make a 3.0, but it's just going to be 2.0 for the new stuff that's coming out of that dashboard repo. That's all. Just so that it's not, otherwise it's going to be, otherwise we'll eventually hit to the same version numbers. It'll be a problem.
Yeah, but do we really need new version, new major
Yes,
version?
we do. We discussed this already. It doesn't matter. Like, it's fine. It's fine. There's a thread
Yeah,
in there.
it's like, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, so but it's also a breaking change, so users will know they need to do a manual change. That's what I'm saying.
It's a breaking change.
Yes, because of the manifest changing. Because there's manifest resources that need to be cleaned up when you migrate.
But just images, isn't it? Or it's more?
No, the actual manifest structure is changing. That's kind of the problem. It's that you need to delete resources.
Yeah, but it's a problem for distributions, not for users.
But it's in the manifest. The point is that we just needed 2.0 because the breaking change is that stuff is changing. That's all.
Okay.
And anyway, and from that point on, we're just going to have a 2.0 alpha. And then from there, we can discuss if we cut a final 2.0
Yeah, can we do RCs similar to Kubernetes?
We'll do that after we actually, but they're not a release candidate yet. Like, it really is not, the first cut is not even going to be in a release state. That's what I'm saying. It's not once we actually have a complete release that could be used, like, for example, we need minimally the migration guide, but also the,
what is images? Wait a second. Like, what is a migration guide for dashboard? I don't understand. Like,
I can ping you an issue, Andre. We talked with like Julius and a bunch of other people to like agree on this that kind of explains what's changing and why.
Yeah.
But
Anyway,
some stuff was like renamed and switching to the different repo.
And also, if we do the authentication migration of like, so the reference auth example, if that moves into the dashboard, it definitely will be a breaking change.
Like, yeah, but this is not there yet, right? Like,
but that's what we're going to debate, right? Once we've got the ability to release, we can debate whether we move all that in or not. And that's Julius.
Yeah, my only kind of recommendation, I know it's up to you to decide, but if in the future you want to introduce, in the near future I'm talking about, right? In like, half a year, you want to introduce a breaking change, maybe it makes sense to have total 0 when you introduce.
No, we're just going to call that 3. We're just going to call that 3. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
like we're just going to, it's not
So
that
you
big
will do 2 major releases in this year.
Yeah, but it's like, that's kind of forced on us by doing the migration, is what I'm saying. Like, I don't think it's that big of a deal. It's like, like,
no, users don't care. Like, they just install manifest. I guess
yeah.
like, the user of dashboard is the users who use Kubeflow manifest, just to be clear.
Well, and also some distributions.
Like, yeah, but the 90% of them using Kubeflow manifest. And the majority of them, they don't care of the version of dashboard.
And anyway, so yeah, in terms of things that we need to talk about, though, I don't think there's much else here. I think the next steps are, let's by next week try and cut an alpha, you know what I mean? And then work with Julius to test that. And then we can debate the following week whether we are ready to cut a final 2.0 RC with some other steps to help people, or whether we want to take a little bit more time and move the auth code in there as well. I think that is a really good thing to do personally, because it's one breaking change for manifest that is just like, okay, if you were using your own auth, this doesn't affect you. If you're not, then this is the new auth source of truth. And Julius can decide that, though. Okay, let's move on. Notebooks. So there is a lot of stuff going on in the 1.0 graduation. Can you give an update, Andy, on the SSF badge thing?
Yeah, so I did meet with Eder this morning. I think fundamentally a lot of this stuff for the open SSF work that Eder did not complete, he feels it's kind of intrinsically tied to moving or migrating to Kubeflow notebooks to have that V1 branch there. So like code scans and stuff isn't over the entirety of Kubeflow, but in like Kubeflow notebooks. And so he felt it was like we migrate and get notebooks V1 branch set up and then get the, Trivy and FOSA scanning that like, we already have called out here. And then most of it is on like the reporting, automated test suite, functional testing, public vulnerability, and static code stuff can be worked once we kind of get the code over there and enabled on that new repo. So he didn't feel, it was like having to review that at Kubeflow was too big. And so he wanted to get it moved over into Notebooks V1 branch to close the loop on those final items.
It looks like you can filter by branch in the code scanning as well, which is good because obviously we don't want 2.0 and 1.0 stuff colliding. Like I'm just looking at the code scanning. I guess I can just show it because it's not actually got a thing here. Yeah, but like, that
Well, I think that's great. So much. You can go back for a sec.
Yeah. Like
So you
pretty much we'll add Trivy
right.
and all the others as tools under here. And then you can filter by the branch and then we can just have people who are assigned to make sure that we go through them.
Yeah, I think this is a great idea.
Yeah, and so because I was just worried that we might have an issue where there's two different branches that are filing issues against it, and it's like, what the heck is happening? Which is also why we need to keep 1.0 in its own branch, so that it is filterable, right?
But dependable is not filterable, right? They just randomly. Is
Yeah,
it?
it is. Yeah.
Okay.
You just have to configure it correctly. But also, but also dependable is not really what we're talking about here. We're more talking about security scanning, which is like Trivy and stuff.
Yeah, but okay, so you will rely on Trivy, not on dependable.
Well, we can use dependable, but dependable is not that's not a like to be again. We're talking about trying to be compliant with the with the CVE stuff for the so that we can, again, it's a self-attestation, but I want to be truthful, right? Saying that yes, we are actually monitoring CVEs of this level, and so effectively one of the tasks would be not in a public meeting. Obviously, we go through maybe once a week or something the security issues raised against 1.0. We evaluate their criticality in relation to the code parts that actually use them. So, for example, a CVE from a dependency that is critical might not even be a high in our case because, like, we might not use it in a way that would be relevant to the problem, right? Or it might be part of our so the only thing that we need to talk about with, so this is why I wanted to bring this up though. So in terms of, okay, so that's my plan here. If anyone want to say anything about that before we talk about the next part, which is around notebook image scanning, because we have a lot of images that are going to throw, like the vast majority of these issues are going to come from the 30, 40, 50 plus notebook example images. And it's going to be completely overwhelming and impossible to filter, is what I'm saying. So we could consider having another branch for notebook example images or having a another repo. I think another branch is probably sufficient, but
why? I mean, I think again, from my point of view, and maybe you can disagree. You can say this in the badge that hey, like we only maintain.
No, yeah, I'm not saying that that's not from a badge perspective. This is from an actual logistics perspective. This is like, how do we?
How you can filter it here? You mean?
Yeah.
But you can easily understand because it shows the path, right, to the.
But yeah, only if it's code, right? If it's the image.
But I mean, you understand, like, you have a prefix on the notebook.
I guess the image will, I don't know how it comes up for images. That's my only concern. But
yeah, it will just have a name, right?
Probably. Like, because when you go, not that one. Like, when you go like not code scanning, maybe it doesn't come up here. Maybe it's like package scanning. You know what I mean? Like, it probably doesn't.
It will show the name, right? Like how you can distinguish them, right?
I think this is only for code, is what I'm saying. I don't think this actually will show the container registry ones because there's no path associated to a container.
Yeah, but maybe once you have a initial Trivi report, we can figure out, because I'm pretty sure Trivi should tell you where, because we can take a look at the manifest, right? So manifest run this section on every PR.
No, but they don't actually push them into here. That's what we were
Yeah,
talking about
I
in the meeting.
understand, but I'm pretty sure those reports here seem exactly the same how they print in the logs, right?
So there's two different things to think about. The first is that like a container image is not the source code. So like the scanning of a container image, it looks at all the binaries that happen to be in there, which may or may not have any relation to the actual registries, the repos code, just because they have a from at the top, right? So the from could pull in literally anything. So I don't know if this is the right place for it. Anyway, so in any case, for now, if we just move the 1.0 stuff to the other one, that's fine. It's gonna, even if they end up getting moved to their own branch, that's fine too. Because we're gonna need to talk about how we version those examples anyway. So like if they get the 1.0 version or 2.0 or how we even do it. Right now, we're just going to have, while 2.0 is not released, just use 1.0. Anyway, I think next steps here though. So the Fossa stuff, I think we just need to identify some people to add as maintainers here. So Fossa is like license scanning to make sure we're in compliance with the licensing of CNCF. Is there anything else you want to talk about with Trivi, Andre?
No, just we need to enable it, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, of course.
And I think for Fossa, you already maintain your Summit, you can do it.
I am, but I can't add people. We need to actually onboard people to the platform.
But can you just enable Fossa for notebooks for V1?
I can, but no one else will be able to look at it. But yeah.
Yeah, but we don't need to look at it, right? Like it's just a one-off operation, like
Well, it happens every day, but yeah.
Yeah, but Matteo will just add an action for every Kubeflow subproject, and it will run away in a PRB, right, on all the PRs.
I mean, anyway, all I'm saying is that we just need to probably have at least one other person onboarded from here. That's all I'm saying.
So who else? Like, do we
maybe
want?
like,
I can ask. I can ask CNCF to add Andy as well.
That's what I'm saying. Like something like that. That's
Andy, do you want to be in the Fossa as well? Okay, just ping me your email, then I will ask.
Yeah, Fossa is about license scanning, so it's just
got it.
Yep. Okay, cool. And you wanted us to review the self-assessment, and then we probably need to move on soon, but yes.
So for self-assessment, so I'm planning to merge it this week. So if we can, we can address the changes for notebooks in the future if you want to. At least initial version we will.
Is there any changes? What do you mean by changes here? Is there?
Notebooks, as we discussed, action and actors, right?
Where is this?
In self-assessment document and
Oh, it's just too big. That's why. Notebooks, is it here? Yeah, we probably need to, I mean, it's complicated, right? This is maybe not comprehensive enough, but maybe it is, who knows? I think, again, this was for incubation anyway, not for the graduation, so it's less comprehensive. Okay, well.
Yeah, again, from my perspective, it doesn't need to be perfect. It has some basic information around notebook controller and calling and images, right? I just, want to hear from working group, is there any kind of fixes, short-term fixes you want to do, right?
Well, I mean, this is just a self-assessment, right? This is not a...
Yeah, this is not audit, right?
Yeah. So it's like, as long as it's not wrong. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, I guess we can, I'm not sure if there's anything we really need to change about that. Like, it's probably fine, right?
Okay, then I will just move forward.
I mean, I don't know if we're the only blocker though. You should check out the people, but.
Yep, sounds good.
Cool. Okay. I'm skip these ones. Notebooks 2. Anything else for graduation or Notebooks 1.0? So obviously, in terms of getting the code migrated, we need to review that, but we'll review that after this meeting. Anything else for this?
Yeah. So OpenSSL batch, right?
Yeah. So again, to get the tick, we just need to tick. Like we need to self-attest that we have the security scanning stuff. That's not scanning. We just need to monitor security issues. That's the thing.
Yeah, but is the problem similar to KFP we discussed on the graduation call this week?
Well,
right?
We'll see what comes up on the scanning, right? Like that's the the only way we'll know if we've done what it says is if we have issues that are open that are more than medium that we acknowledge are actually relevant to the app.
Yeah, but we already know them via dependable, right? Like I mean, talking about at least packages to update, right? So
yeah, it's unclear, right? It's like these are CVs are different to dependencies, right? So like there's a chance that actually, and again, we can go through each one. I think what we said in the meeting was that we'd go through each one and we would evaluate its seriousness. If it is above a medium, we will mitigate it or update it. You know, one of those two.
since we're doing this right now and setting those trivia, do you want to go over like existing issues, critical issues, and address
Well, no,
them?
it's if it doesn't show up in the scans, it might as well not exist. That's kind of how we're going to treat it. Like,
But if the bot shows the critical issue.
but that's not like we need to make our own assessment about the criticality relevant to us, right? So if in the code scanning section, we go through each of them, the notebooks 1.0, we evaluate if it's even a real issue or not. And then we resolve it. That's because that's what the requirement for SSF badge says. It says that you within a timely manner resolve issues. You know what I mean? Like that's you acknowledge you have a place to report issues, which we do. We now have the GitHub place users can report issues. The code scanning can automatically report issues. And then we go through them. We do a regular go through of them. We evaluate their criticality. I think a lot of them aren't going to be actually real or are going to be easy to update. And for the ones that aren't, we can work on mitigation plans for those specific ones. But again, all we need to do to be able to self-assess is that we are planning and actively doing that. It's not that we've solved it, you know?
Yeah, but the problem is like to get OpenSSF badge, you should not have any critical issues.
No, it only says that the SSF badge is not actually like what it says is it's about publicly known vulnerabilities. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so public and known vulnerabilities, right? If you have, you should have the critical or high.
And to be clear, publicly known has to yes, but that doesn't mean dependencies. Like dependencies, a dependency could have a critical vulnerability and it might not even be a vulnerability to us. Like it just depends on what it is. Like
so then why not just checking up, this?
well, because that's to get to the point. We need to have the process in place to solve this. That's kind of what I'm saying. And once we do, then we can say we've done it.
So okay, it makes sense. So you believe that once we have a process, you think that we can get the badge?
Yeah, because we can just tick we're doing it, right? Like it's not like it's this and obviously if we run into like a security blocker which has an issue there, but again, it's unlikely that we couldn't A, fork a package if there's an issue that we can't update, or B,
yeah, just that makes sense. I just the thing is like yeah, but the problem is especially for notebooks, right? We depend on a very like legacy Angular, right? So there is a lot of work which needs to be done to update Angular. I'm wondering, do you have any concerns because of legacy Angular? We cannot get this badge.
I mean, it's unclear whether any of the again, I think we've talked about this as well around what the security posture of the UIs are expected to even be, right? Like it's a debate as to whether you could even have something above a medium for a UI in Kubeflow. Like, is that even possible? Like,
yeah, that is why. Yeah, I just want to hear
it's
from
not
you.
Clear. Like, it's not like that's why we need to actually evaluate the state of the situation. And in the case that there are known vulnerabilities that are medium or higher, we can evaluate them on a case-by-case basis or change the stated security posture to evaluate to match that. Because again, it's not about solving the issues. They should fetch critical vulnerabilities again, and we will try and endeavor to do this. But I don't know if this one's actually required to get the met this one. But in any case, our first goal is just
I think it's a broader problem, including notebooks, KT pipelines as part of, broader Kubeflow graduation picture, right? I like my point, I think I said this to you on Tuesday, we should kind of decouple the UI component, or at least, because I don't think we have enough time to address all those problems.
But we should have a process to fix it. Like we can't just not have a process to fix their UI.
Yeah. The process makes sense. We can, enable.
And that's what we're actually saying to the CNCF. Like, yeah, like, and to be clear, these issues aren't publicly known in some strict sense, right? Some of them are, but like, anyway.
Yeah, it's like 3 components which is affecting by this problem right now, right?
It's just every component. Like we just need to have good security practices.
No, it's 3 components. It's
well,
only
there's 3 very complex components. I think it's part of it. But yeah. Anyway, Notebooks 2.0 won't have these problems because it's up to date in its dependencies anyway. So, okay. Okay, let's move on. We really need to get to Notebook 2.0. Is there anything else for migration and graduation? Like, so we're gonna onboard, set up scanning on Kubeflow notebooks and Kubeflow dashboard repo, both v1 and v2 branches. I wonder if the Fossa can handle 2 branches pushing different scans, hopefully. um, and then dashboard, and then from there we'll onboard. You need to be onboarded as well, Andre. Are you onboarded on this?
Yeah, in the morning today. So
You got it, yeah.
yeah, I got the access. So
And the
I think I identify. So from notebooks, I think it's only you, Matthew, and Andy as of now. I think Eder as well. I ask for access.
yeah, that's fine. We can add Andy and Eder, yeah. Okay. Or as member of boss CNCF org, then add them to Kubeflow team in Fossa. Yeah, it's just a helpful scanning thing as well. Like solving the licensing issues themselves is a separate task, but yeah, if we have any. Yeah. Okay. We will create set up Trivi scans to push to GitHub security page on Kubeflow notebooks and Kubeflow dashboard. Technically, the dashboard's not required for this because it's not, but it's like we should do that. I do worry about making it. We might need to create a custom role so that some people can see security who aren't writers, but that's a separate issue. Okay. Or we could, yeah, we'd have to think about, that's my only problem around security. That's what I said around, like the issue is to have access to the security page, you need to currently be a writer on the repo, which obviously we don't want to give to lots of people. But that's a problem. Okay, whatever. We can work on that later. Even if we do it on like a call where one person who has access goes through it on the call with everyone else, that's probably fine. Okay, let's continue. Is there anything else before we move on?
Nope.
This is being worked on with the Trivi scanning and process to triage and resolve, mitigate known medium or higher CVEs. Okay. Cool. Okay. 2.0. Anything else, Andy, you want to add here?
Yeah, sorry, I was muted. Robert reached out from the Fossa people after you pinged him, Andre, but he's saying I'm not listed in the owner's file, so we can take that offline. We don't need to do this call, but I'll ping you guys to figure out what needs to happen there. But other than that, no, good.
That's a good point. Okay. Cool. Okay. So yeah, we can talk about this one later. I do want to probably start removing the scope from the PRs, and we probably should have started enforcing that in the labels on Notebooks 2.0. So let's go through our current short-term goals and tracking of what's happening, and then we can move to stand-up kind of mode for Notebooks 2.0. So,
hey Matthew, hey Paulo here. There's nothing about the Fossa stuff. If you need, I can volunteer as well for the Fossa scan with Andy and Nether.
Yeah, it's just about like making sure that we have someone who can feedback problems that are kind of of a sensitive legal nature to the community around like, if someone accidentally adds a package that we're not shouldn't be using and things like that.
I just didn't know from a front end perspective, like Paulo's probably a little bit more knowledgeable on the, kind of like that aspect, but
it's more about just having someone to monitor it, like, what I mean? And then and then we can feed back to people directly who have this ability to solve things. But yeah, I mean, we just need to have people able to see it other than me right now. That's the only problem.
Okay.
But yeah, we can work on it once we start having problems there, but yeah. Okay. So it affects 2.0 as well, to be clear. Okay, so I don't know what's going on with this, but MySpace can create. Okay. So epics, have we got to a state where we can actually go through them right now, or what are we going to do right now? Are we going to go through the epics, or are we?
If we're pressed for time, I mean, most of the work that we've been focusing on right now has been around central dashboard integration, which is mostly there, modulo, the work that Yehudit's doing to kind of like kind of work and get all that stuff in place in terms of Kubeflow notebooks work. A lot of the people for Red Hat have been looking at other things, integration into like their downstream repos on stuff. So Guillerme's done a lot of really nice work here, but I don't think from the last working group meeting, we've just kind of been focused on internal stuff. If anyone else has stuff they want to share, by all means, but updates to last week isn't as
we can go through like a stand-up thing for people who are here, but like my question is like overall, what are we pressing for right now? So like obviously we're the dashboard is the one we've already talked about that. We're definitely going to do that, you know, getting a release ready so that we can integrate with it. But
so yeah, so dashboard stuff. One of the big recent focuses was around the Swagger source of truth. We got that all squared away, from my understanding, from you guys' working group meeting last week. So Guillerme feels good about that. And then we have this kind of like outstanding thing, Matthew, as an extenuation of central dashboard. I have a very crude script right now. I'd gotten secondhand that you were asking to break that script up. That's totally fine, and we can talk about that. But it's really been around that right now. And one of the things I'd like to discuss with you as we have time, even off recording, is then starting to figure out this like prior stack ranked list of epics. So now we can start pulling in people to start to work on, the next stuff and get that reflected in the boards.
yeah, because like obviously these are kind of like, you know, we've kind of got strange dates on here that aren't really correct anymore. But like it's
so it's like we still have to like close a lot of the items here, but it's really more so about where do we go next as well. So
what's
we can
the actual
play out that plan.
block? Yeah, yeah, and I think obviously getting the thing deployed end to end is the current overall goal, you know, and then from there, that means connecting the front end to the back end and the back end to the controller. Obviously, it was already done, but you know, those are things where we're working on those tasks. So from my understanding, and then obviously everyone having that all connected enables everyone to actually start understanding what's not working. Because like there's stuff that, you know, people were designing without having the connection to the backend API, and it being like, well, how can you design it without that? So I guess my questions, other than before we jump to the stand-up and specific tasks, is the things I want to monitor are, have we got the automatic front-end client generation and stuff working now? People who are working on that, I think Guillerme was working on it.
Sorry, the code generation stuff, I got pinged, I got distracted.
Yeah, I mean, who's been finishing that? It's like I want to know.
Guillerme. So I don't know if he's Guillerme is. I think you're on, Guillerme, if you're not unintentionally muted. But I was just speaking with him recently, and I think all that stuff is merged, so we feel good about that story being complete. Yes.
So are we happy with the current status? Like, so because I think we were talking a little bit about some stuff last time. I think what the solution we landed on, which was painful, but we didn't really have any other choice, is that the front end hard codes a specific commit from the back end that it will use to pull the swagger.json. Unfortunately, because otherwise every PR that updates the front end or the back end would break the front end or the back end in CI. So it's a little bit. So I think there was one unanswered question that we didn't have, which was where is this? This one. This one, I think. So like, I don't know, maybe not this one. It was. Oh no, I know why. Sorry, it was actually under the GitHub one. That's why. So effectively, like, so that we can run tests, because like, effectively, what we're doing is that now when you make a PR, obviously in the front end, it runs tests, but you could have forgotten to update the Swagger or something like that, but it's unclear what the correct answer is. So effectively, what we did instead was just, as Andy decided, and it was a good idea, was to effectively in this file here, add the under Notebooks 2.0 front end, add, I don't know if it should, yeah, we effectively added a commit hash, which is unfortunate that it's this because it's very unclear what this means, but this results in it checking like as part of the build process, it checks out the it runs. This is how we run the Swagger generation, and I think under the Nginx, under the make file, wherever it is, not make, build package, wherever it is, there's yeah. And so like generate API is how you actually generate the new clients for which again ran the script we just showed. So all reason I'm showing this is because we need to decide something, which is what we don't really have any better way of solving this problem. Like effectively, front-end devs don't need to change ensures effectively the goal is that we want to make sure that when you make a PR on the front end, you haven't manually changed files that are automatically generated. To do that, we need to make sure that we run the generator and check for diffs in the output on the CI. So that's a requirement. But we also, if we always run it on the head, meaning whatever the current swagger.json is of the backend, it might not actually be correct. Like the front end might, effectively any PR that rebases after a backend update would need to be the one to be able to have its CI pass that updates the front end's integration with the back end, which may not be, it's not good. So the question is, which, so what is, when are we, how are we going to decide when we need, how are we going to enforce that we update the connection between the front end and the back end in the sense that the front end should point to the latest Swagger? The option one is that whatever this is bad, I think, which is the first, oh, actually this is fine, which effectively this one is like convenience, like whoever is the first person to have a problem in their PR is like, oh, I need to update to the latest Swagger one. Maybe there's a new path that I need. Maybe I'm adding a new page for some feature and then the backend API has had a new API path added. To do so, obviously I can't actually use that path until I generate the client for it. So my concern there is, this is just a bit of a sequencing problem sometimes. And then another one is that we could have a regular job which like tries it and runs the tests and sees what happens, although I'm not sure that that's going to be that helpful. Like it's maybe, if anyone's got any other ideas for the front end people, please say, but like for now, what will happen is, so the end-to-end test should detect serious problems, but there are still situations where front-end end-to-end tests might fail because the back end has been updated, but the Swagger has not, that it's generating from. I can imagine situations that would happen. Like, for example, mainly around when you add a new type to an enum in a variable for a JavaScript API. That's my suspicion. Is there anything anyone wants to comment about this, like Jeremy or Polo? Or are we happy with the current state for now? How are we coming along with end-to-end tests? I think that's probably the question that really pulls this for front end.
So for end-to-end, right, we need to get these workload manifests like merged so we have like a good end-to-end test story.
Manifests. You mean the front end manifests, you mean?
And back end, right? They have no like.
Of course, and then we can run it in the CI.
Yes, sorry, yes, that's where I was going.
Yeah, okay. Also, we might need to get some GPU test instances at some point, but yeah, okay.
But in general, from like manually doing this, right, that like, you know, kind of preliminary script I have that deploys an Istio-based infrastructure on kind, and then you just port forward to, you know, the, you know, Istio ingress controller, everything in central dashboard functionality wise, like works. Create workspace. And Guilherme did actually a nice video recently, kind of like showing that like click through where it's all there. So it's just a matter, but it's using those like manifests from PRs that haven't been merged yet. I just kind of clumped a bunch of stuff together on a singular branch to drive that so we could easily test it ourselves.
Okay. Anyway, so in terms of the next tasks, I think we definitely need to push forward on getting end-to-end tests, which means being deployable end-to-end. Well, that's separate. Being deployable by end users and also then being deployable in end-to-end. I think that is the most critical thing because like it forces us to actually solve a lot of problems. So I'm assuming that's what we're all working on, but I just that definitely needs to be our focus for the next sprint. But obviously we can formalize that once we've fixed up the tracking. But anything that pushes us towards being able to have the front end talk to the back end, talk to a controller which actually runs a notebook end to end, including routing and Istio and everything, and then having some tests which say, can a user create a notebook? Can a user connect to that notebook? Can a, you know, these kind of problems. Of course, auth is involved, which is going to be problematic there, but that's problems we need to start solving so that we can have tests that check for regression and stuff. So anyone, now I guess we can move on to people's tasks, but that's just the context in which we should be discussing their tasks. Anyone want to add anything to that they think is critically going to block that in the short term, other than obviously dashboard manifests and the front end, back end manifests? Okay, let's do this then. Who wants to go first in the stand-up basic stuff? We just want to quickly burn through what people are blocked by, what you're working on, what you have been working on, what you're blocked by, and what you're going to be working on over the next 2 weeks or week. Paulo?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hey, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So I've been working on some internal stuff like Andy commented. So just trying to set up my environment, but won't be working on any UI stuff for this week.
Are you blocked by anything if you were to try and do tasks around like deployment stuff, or is that not relevant right now?
No, not at the moment.
Okay, Jenny.
Hello. So I have been working on syncing the MUI theme style sheet to unblock shared library integration. And then along with that, I've also got a PR up that I wanted to ask for your review on, Matthew. If you have a chance to take a look, it's very quick. It's on the website repo for adding the new logo to our website. And yeah, I think we've gotten approval there from Andre. So if you can take a look and give us a review on that, that would be fantastic.
Okay, we will look at that after the meeting. Okay. Anything else that's blocking your stuff here? So I'm assuming, is this, when you say thinking style sheet, what do you mean by this? Where is this living?
So this is living right now, and there's a shared components library for MUI theming and the pattern fly components that we're using. So we're moving towards using that shared library and syncing our MUI theme style sheet to align with the existing styles that are there. So in order to do that, we want to have those styles synced and include all the styles for the components that we've added in both places, if that makes sense.
Is this going to live in our repo, or where's that going to live, these common things?
Those common components are going to live in a separate repo that we're consuming in our repo. So the theming and styling is going to live there moving forward.
Including, is it in a Kubeflow repo, or is it in a Red Hat repo?
It is in a Kubeflow repo. Yeah, Kubeflow shared components, I believe it's called. I can add a link as well.
Does it exist? Okay, cool. Yeah, let's
Yes, it does.
link that. Good. Let me find it. I feel like it would be at the top if it existed recently, right? Or is this under one of your repos right now, I guess?
Let me just take a look here. I'll drop it in the chat.
Yeah,
It's
cool.
yeah, when I find it.
Cool. Okay, Andy. Yep. If you want to skip, we can skip. But
no, yeah, a lot of this has been just kind of end-to-end central dashboard deployment, and then working with Andre and Eder on some of this open SSF stuff, or really the notebooks v1 migration yesterday, and then kind of moving forward here, getting our notes cleaned up and everything in GitHub is kind of primary task at hand, so we can kind of start to really hit the ground running to try to get MVP GA by end of year.
I think, yeah, so obviously you've got a lot of tasks here. We probably need to make sure that you're not the only one doing a lot of this, but yes, like around the migration. Of course, once the migration's done, obviously. But yeah, we need to, yeah, okay. Cool, okay, thanks for your work there. It's very, very helpful, but hopefully if you don't have time to work on some stuff, please like raise it so that we can figure it out.
No, I'm honestly feeling pretty good. It's just the summertime schedule of family vacations, which is a good thing, but I'm feeling comfortable about stuff. It's just being not around my laptop, which is a good problem to have, but I'm okay. Thank you.
Okay, cool. Because like it's not like it's an open source project. Like a lot of us are volunteers, obviously. Like so, like if people have less resource than we need to prioritize what's happening. And obviously migration of code is in some cases is a blocker, but in other cases it's not. Okay. Other people in the call. I'm just looking. Hashad.
Yeah, from my side, like last week, I got some reviews from Matthew, so I'm just working on them and continue to.
This is for the virtual service reconciliation and things. So you're blocked by anything, or are you going to be able to raise a PRs, update your PR soon, or?
Yeah, I will be able to update them possibly this week or starting at least next week. It should be up to date.
Cool.
Yeah. 7,500.
I'm assuming that's not this one actually. That's not. Cool. Yep. Okay, cool. So you're happy with, so like obviously this is important to actually get end-to-end tests because we won't better do end-to-end tests without this. But yeah.
And I
Yes.
synced with Harshad on this too, so I feel I'm up to date on your comments, Matthew. So once that's ready, I'll make sure to give it a deeper first pass. So hopefully it's good to go.
Cool. Awesome. If you need help, please say. Okay, I see you found your link, Jenny.
Yep. Yeah, so to answer your question, it currently exists downstream right now. So that's going to be something that's consumed by Kubeflow and referenced there.
It's a bit weird that we would consume it from this repo, but okay. Interesting. We probably need to think about what this means, like interesting. Okay. We can come back to that later, I guess. Okay. Cool. Anything else you want to add there, Jenny? Sorry.
But no, that's it for me. Thank you.
Okay. Who else is in the call? Okay. Anyone else who hasn't gone, who has things they've been working on, or is blocked by something? Please just unmute or type a message. Everyone's welcome to say something.
I can talk about my part.
Mhm.
Sorry. Similar to Paulo, I haven't worked on any specific issue, but I started to take a look on this shared library that Jenny mentioned and how we could integrate this into notebooks. I guess this shared library is already being used in model registry, so I was taking a look how it was being used there, and the goal here is to since this is a shared library, is to reuse the components and in a similar way to model registry does, and avoid this duplication of code.
So what's an example of something that lives here?
The themes, like Jenny mentioned, for example, we have our own CSS files, but the idea, I believe, is to use a shared CSS file that has all the common styles for these applications. And also I could see other utility code especially for front end, mostly for front end.
That's great context there, Guillermo. And yeah, we also have a lot of duplicated Patternfly component groups and separate component groups that exist in model registry and in Kubeflow notebooks that we're trying to avoid and mitigate by applying those shared components instead. So by directly importing from there, that solves a lot of our code duplication and keeps things cleaner and more maintainable long term.
How does this work from if we need to make a change to something perspective up here? This is obviously who manages this repo, you know what I mean?
That's a good question. Yeah, I'll have to get back to you on that as far as how that's going to work going forward. I don't know if Guillermo, you have any more context to add there at the moment?
Yeah, because like making it a central dependency while not being part of Kubeflow is obviously a bit dangerous, but it's yeah, I don't know, like is it because I thought we were talking about making a pretty generic base theme and then having people style it how they want or something, but maybe I'm misunderstanding. I'm fine with whatever, but like I do worry that like what if this repo, who owns this repo, you know what I mean? That's kind of my main concern.
This
If
is
it's
the
for
Open
Kubeflow.
Data Hub is like more or less governed by Red Hat. I mean, it's open source, but I mean, the heavy contribution is on Red Hat. So this kind of handles that material UI versus Patternfly thing, which is why it sits here.
Yeah, I just wonder what I mean, it's a bit weird to just have a common dependency that lives outside of Kubeflow if it's actually for Kubeflow stuff. But I mean, we can talk about it, but I'm just like, it's a bit worrying. Okay, getting stuff done in the short term is the most important, but like we just need to be aware of these kind of dependencies and figure out what we like. So if we say, what about if the Kubeflow project wants to make a change that Red Hat doesn't like, for example, or something like that's the part where I'm like, I don't want to be dependent on something that we can't influence and end up just having to fork away from it at the last minute, and then we cause the problem again with like making a common dependency. There's always the thing in architecture, right? Which is that a common dependency is also a central contention point, right? Like I make a breaking change in it, everyone gets affected, right? And it means that now suddenly changes can't be made. And this
a
is
lot of
kind
this modular architecture work driving on, because Red Hat's contributing to whatever, like pipelines and model registry and blah blah blah. So that's where the centralist is. But this is still very much like fluid and in action. So we can certainly give that feedback to them and come with updates there on those concerns.
Yeah, like maybe this should, if it's actually only used by Kubeflow, maybe it should live under Kubeflow or something. That's kind of.
And it can be imported into this. Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'll bring this to people that are really driving on the majority of this, or Jenny, you can't too. I don't want to steal your thunder, but it's a valid point. Let's have that discussion and then bring up an update on thoughts there.
That sounds like a good
Yeah,
plan.
I think
Yeah,
the
thank you.
goal. I think the final goal. Sorry, Jenny. I think the final goal is to move to Kubeflow, but it's still work in progress. So I guess at the end, that's the idea.
Yeah, obviously. And then there's still a separate discussion we were saying around like, what if pipelines want something and we need something, and then we end up just having two components that do very similar things but have slightly diverging trees. Like that's kind of my only kind of, at that point, why didn't we just put them in the respective repos, things like that, where like, how do we make a decision? We need to have a governance process for this because we don't really have resources that are owned by multiple working groups. It's not really a thing. Like right now, this is coming from the fact that Red Hat is contributing as a company to multiple components, but components have their own autonomy, And so this is where I'm just a little bit, I'm not against having central things that are external dependencies that are well maintained, but for themes, it just seems a bit interesting.
Can I ask a quick question on this? Sorry.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I think we discussed this like a year ago with Heather, and I think at a high level, like my point of view, I like the idea of unified design experience across Kubeflow projects. I think this is what we want to give to our users. I think the question I want to maybe ask, like how we can ensure in 2 to 3 years we won't end up with the same situation we have with Angular and Aricto. Like, can someone from your team think about it? And
I think the issue is that's what I was highlighting, which is that there is no, even if this lived in Kubeflow, there would be no clear owner or incentive for even maintenance.
I just want to hear from from Red Hat perspective, like what do you think, like in terms of maintenance and ownership, right? In like 2 to 3 years of this project and common teams, right? Which all of the Kubeflow UIs will end up with depend on, right?
That's a really great question. And in that scenario, are you saying it's more preferable to have this continue to live in our notebooks repository, because that way it's like there's clear ownership for specifically for theming, for example?
No, I'm asking like from my point of view, I still think we should have common teams, and we should have a way. I guess this is what we discussed with Eder. Like this was kind of the vision of all this ML experience working group, right, etc. Like I would just want to hear like from your perspective, because this require, as much as said, like cross working group, some sort of
ownership.
Ownership, yes,
Which is like
yeah.
impossible. Which right now is actually impossible under the
No,
current
it's
governance.
possible. It's possible. Like I just
But
want to
who
hear
has
like,
merge approval then? What about if I want to make a change that's going to break something in pipelines?
yes,
like
but
what I can't. Like effectively, it forces us to fork it. Is what I'm saying. Like I don't see a path that doesn't involve us forking it.
But the thing is, like, it's possible because the design teams can be inherit. Like we can all use the same designs across pipelines.
But that means it needs to be in a common working group that owns common code, and then they need to make the final call.
Yes, like UX working group.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And then they have to make a library which components can choose to use. Like effectively, it is going to be like they have to, so that they have to work to make it want to be used. You know what I mean? Like that's
I think we're saying so. Seek again. ML experience was kind of created to address this problem, right?
Well, no, that's for end users.
No, it was for design as well. Like it was for designing. Like if you take a look in the charter, like what we've been discussing, like the goal is to provide the common teams across Kubeflow projects, so we can all have the same design experience, on the SDK level, on the UI experience level, right? So users will, don't feel confused, right, when they open pipelines UI or workspaces UI or trainer UI.
Okay, that's like an end user experience focus. I'm talking about like from this is more like a developer enablement thing, right? Where it's like we could just build our own themes, right? And components.
I just think, from my point of view, I don't think it's a right for the Kubeflow future for every working group to build their own thing.
Of course, but like it has to be like a matter of what block, like usually the best way to make this work is that there's a team which is trying to create stuff that's helpful for everyone. And the best way to determine if it's actually helpful is, are the components using it? You know what I mean? Right? And because the components can and will just use whatever they need to get their features shipped. Right? So
yeah, so that is why I want to hear, like, from Red Hat team, like, what is your strategy there, right? Like, how we can ensure components can benefit from these common tools, right? But at the same time, having the flexibility to plug in their own custom things, right? Yeah. Good.
I mean, me or Jenny or a combination of us. Let me talk to like Eder and the team that's driving on this right now. It's a very fair ask, Andre. So let's get some feedback.
Because I thought that was MUI. Like I thought that like MUI itself, I thought was that commonality, and then we just applied a theme relative to each component or distribution, right? Like that because like why isn't this living in MUI? Is kind of my question.
No, it's not UI. Like I know.
No, MUI is their library.
Yeah, but it's a design team, so it's CSS tokens, right? I guess this is what it's about, right? And they live like in a separate common repos, and this SSS token, like CSS token, sorry, can be reused, right, across all those. I mean, we should add her here in the room to speak about it more, but I think this is what this is all about, right? It's not about the backend side or front end side. Front end lives in their repos, right? But CSS tokens, which we can inherit, it can be common, right?
I'm just worried about over modularizing. That's my main concern. But yeah. Or over commonizing, like making, what I'm saying, like where it's like, that just isn't going to work. Like if pipelines and notebooks have some common dependency on anything that changes with any regularity, it's just not going to work. Like, whereas if it's like, if they're depending on something which is really static, sure. But then at that point, what's really the value of it? That's what I'm trying to understand. Like,
I think so.
Thanks for that feedback. Yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go for Jenny. Go first.
No, yeah, just wanted to say thank you. This is great community feedback. So I was going to say we'll relay this back to the model registry team who owns this repository and where these tokens currently live, and just let them know that feedback, and yeah, we can have a larger discussion on that. Was there anything else?
This is how common libraries always start, by the way. People who are maintaining a specific project think, oh, I can factor my pieces out of it, and then because they own it, it's not a problem for them because it's effectively just part of their app. And then suddenly it's like, oh, 3 other projects now need to depend on it as well, and then it just doesn't work because it's because the natural flow of a dependency is an upstream app which is customizable, right?
I think the problem, I mean, I think overall what Eric was kind of proposing several years ago was right from user experience, because again, like I agree that like overall for the Kubeflow composability and it's great. But at the same time, we're losing the overall product story, especially on the workspace side. We're speaking about this embedded UI with the notebooks, right, and how people can easily like see all of their runs, all the experiments, right, the jobs, right. All those UIs should be consistent from the design perspective, right? Which means like we still need to have this commonality across all of those.
But I think you're misunderstanding it. You're misattributing a technical implementation detail from the end user experience detail. Like the goal can be consistency while I'm using one framework and another team's using another. That is fully possible. It's just a matter of whether that makes sense from a resource perspective. Yeah. But you know what I'm saying? Like we can all agree that every page has a certain coloring, has a certain types of style feeling, and not have a common dependency in some cases. But again, that common dependency, I think we're saying is MUI, right? Not this. Like that's my understanding. But
yeah. So if I remember, again, we need Tether in the room. But if I remember correctly, what we discussed, like half a year ago, that there is ability to switch, between MUI, the Patternfly, and other, teams, right? Because we're just building the tokens.
No, MUI has themes, right? And that's what we talk about here.
Yeah, but the themes can be easily switched. And they will be applied for, like, for example, like the Red Hat, which want to distribute the Kubeflow projects within their own system. They want to use the Patternfly, right? Or their own, like styles. Like other, folks might use MUI, right? To render.
Then what about if pipelines is on a newer version of MUI than notebooks?
Yeah. And this is what we need to solve, like over the years, right? We have an ability for end users to quickly switch the team, right? And this team will affect all of the projects, like, or the projects they kind of like use within the Kubeflow umbrella, right? Yeah, it's a very complex problem. Like,
I don't think it's
I
like,
just,
yeah,
yeah.
I think the goal should be to enable every working group to deliver whatever they're doing. Like that should be the goal. The goal shouldn't be like solving some logistical problem. It should be to deliver a good outcome, right? And then the question is working backwards from, you know, I don't want to ever block pipelines from releasing a feature because I have a dependency on something that they depend on as well, right? Like that's silly because I
I think
won't be able to. They'll just fork it, right? So
yes. I think this is what we need. If we want Kubeflow to be successful for the end users, this is what we need to solve as a broader, like cross-working group decision, right? Otherwise, still users will get, not consistent experience. They will complain, and we will get like,
I don't think
negative.
consistent experience will block people using the tool. I think functionality is the primary thing, but
Yeah, but I think I just like my point of view is a good thing. We should definitely continue discussing this, and we should find a way to see like how we can push this forward overall. What we've been discussed
yeah,
before.
and I think a lot of your consistency concerns, Andre, are going to be addressed by workspaces consuming the world a little bit. Whereas like most CRD driven parts of Kubeflow can just be kind of forced into workspaces, not as like the notebook, but I mean like that UI code base effectively, right? It's like if there is a CRD managing system, the backend for the workspaces can just be the integration between that CRD.
Yeah. I think we discussed it a year ago with you.
Like jobs. Like for example, most of our CRDs are jobs,
Yeah, even pipelines.
I don't think pipelines can be because it has other things, but at least Katib, Trainer, Spark Operator, these kind of job-driven CRDs make total sense under like a job.
But I mean, pipelines is also job. It's just more complex.
But its value is not the CRD. Its value is the overall platform.
Yeah, but this is the problem we need to solve, right? Like if we can, if we treat the pipelines as a batch job, it's just more complex. Like you have training job, you have optimization job, you have serving.
But to be clear, what is pipelines? Pipelines is
no, pipelines is just
Argo.
combination of multiple steps of your of your ML workflow, right?
But there's no direct CRD. What I'm saying is for things which are Kubernetes native, like pipelines is not a Kubernetes native app. It is a wrapper around various runtimes, including Argo.
Yeah, but the users don't care.
No, but what I'm saying is that the UIs for every component that's just a wraparound CRD is quite static because the CRD doesn't change that much. The backend for example, we could easily add a tab in workspaces for Katib because it's.
Yeah, like I think what we heard like from users and my conversation with data scientists and ML engineers, they don't want to leave Jupyter. They don't want to leave VS Code. They don't want to leave RStudio. They don't want to have any other UI and want to have one place, no switching tabs to do their work efficiently and productively. Like from the architecture perspective and how we design Kubeflow and architect it might be different, right? But this is what stories I hear from users I work with closely, which means like all the things should be where you're developing your ML code, which is kind of a Jupyter Lab or VS Code, right? I don't need to.
But like there's Kubernetes integration that has to happen, even if those apps are embedding iframes from other parts of Kubeflow or using the same API, right? Because effectively what I'm saying is the workspace's backend API should be interacting with the CRD. Like the workspace backend API is by far the most like scalable. It is designed for tens of thousands of users. Like it's well over-spec'd for notebooks. But if every CRD in Kubeflow was managed through that API, it would kind of make sense. And also allows us to do common auth and other things like that. But it solves a lot of the commonality issues. Like we don't need Katib and Spark Operator to make their own UIs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I think we should continue to talk about it. Like, I wish Heather, be here and we can continue this. Like serious group. I think it's, it's a great topic. I think like, similar what Elira was proposing. I think this is what I'm talking about a little bit, like in terms of pipelines and how these things stitch together. But for the common team, I agree in terms of, jobs should be embedded within,
within a workspace backend. But the front end can be a plugin in Jupyter. That's fine. But it's like the backend REST API is still being used. That's kind of what I'm saying.
Yep, makes sense.
Like that in the contract, there is that swagger. You know what I mean? That's kind of where I'm saying. Anyway, well, we can talk about that later. It just feels like that's an inevitable step anyway. But like we can, and it solves all except pipelines because pipelines has very complex UIs of its own. That's kind of what because it's not Kubernetes native. It's like it's abstract above Kubernetes, right? It's not just running Kubernetes resources. That is the result, but
Yeah,
not
yeah,
the,
yeah.
the feature.
I
if you
know
know
there is a work again going on to, you know, introduce pipeline CRD, so let's see how it goes.
Maybe, right? But that seems like a weird circle path, right? Because we already started with Argo workflows. Like, you know what I mean? Like Argo workflows exist already, so
Yeah, makes sense.
yeah. Okay, cool. That's we don't want to go full circle, right? Like we literally created Kubeflow pipelines because Argo workflows CRD was not useful, like because it was too hard to write. You know what I mean? Like it was not human generatable. That was the reason Argo was not.
KFP in 2019.
That's why it was created.
Yeah, they don't have SDK on top of Argo, and you know there is also metadata is important piece, right, for it as well.
And so like we don't want to like. There's no reason like that was the whole value of Kubeflow pipelines was I want to reproduce with component-driven development in my Argo workflows. You know, that was the idea. But anyway, okay. Anything else people need to talk about on the recording before we start doing some PR reviews? If not, I will stop the recording. Thanks for coming, everyone. Okay.